Hello, pre-calculus students, and welcome to our lesson on solving inequalities. And we are specifically interested in solving inequalities that are complicated. So I have a problem here that is not exactly an inequality, but it'll help us later on. It says, given f of x equals x minus 70 times 3x plus 21 times x plus the square root of 87 quantity squared, which values of x will cause f of x to be 0, negative, positive? Now, before you go running and grabbing your TI-83, TI-Inspire, your whatever graphing calculator that you use, there is a way to do this algebraically. And in fact, for this particular problem, it's superior because it's faster. And if you don't believe me, you can try this on your calculator and see if you finish before I do. Okay? So one of the things that we can answer first is 0. That's probably the simplest thing to answer. This is already in factored form. So I know the zeros are 70. This right here, 3x plus 321 equals 0. And if I solve this equation, I get x equals negative 107. So that's another 0. And then the next factor here, x plus square root of 87 equals 0. So that means negative square root of 87 is another 0. Now, it's also going to be helpful if we get the multiplicity, even though it doesn't really ask for it. This is 1, this is 1, and this is 2. So we can sketch a graph, and in fact, a decent sketch is all we really need. I know that it touches 70. I know that it touches negative 107. And I know that it touches negative square root of 87. I know that the degree here is 2 plus 1 plus 1, so that's 4. So it's going to look something like this. And now I can give you a good sketch. So I know it's going to start at the top, come down, touch 107, and because this multiplicity is odd, it's going to cross. Then it has to turn around and come up and touch negative square root of 87, and because this multiplicity is even, it's going to kiss it, turn back down, cross the x-axis or the y-axis at some point, and come back up, cross over 70. So now I can answer this question for part B and C. I'm going to use what's called a sign chart. So you can see here, I'll make the sign chart out here, and there's really no definition for it. Showing you is probably better than telling you at this point. So I know these are my zeros, and I know that to the left of negative 107, it's positive, it's above the x-axis. Between negative 107 and negative 81, it's negative. Between negative square root of 87 and 70, still negative. And then to the right of 70, it goes up, it goes positive. So now I can answer these questions. For which values is it 0? We already answered that. For which values is it negative? Well, between negative 107 and negative square root of 87, exclusive. Then between negative square root of 87 and 70, exclusive. Positive, well, between negative infinity and negative 107, and then between 70 and positive infinity. So there we go. And a few things here, whoops, I should show you my sign chart. That'll probably make things a little bit easier for you to see. So I'll reiterate it again. Where is it negative? Well, between negative 107 and negative square root of 87, and then between negative square root of 87 and 70. Where is it positive? To the left of negative 107, basically means all the numbers between negative infinity and negative 107, and then to the right of 70, from 70 onwards. And of course, you can graph this, but that is going to take you a much longer time than doing it this way. And doing it this way, I mean, the main idea here is to get you to develop your thinking, to think critically through these problems and seeing if there's a way that we can solve this on our own without having to rely so much on technology. So here's a beginning example, and it doesn't really deal with inequalities just yet, but we'll see in the next example and onwards why this can be useful.